All right, well, let's have a look at some of the fundamental settings that you're all going to probably be faced with when setting up and configuring your wireless access point. So we'll start off by accessing this Asus WL530G. And what you're seeing in front of you is a couple of the settings that you have seen me talk about in the slides, such as the SSID, the service set ID. And setting the SSID field does actually have uppercase and lowercase. It is case sensitive. Now, a lot of people tend to have problems configuring their clients towards their access point or configuring their clients that connect to different manufacturer types of access points. So a lot of problems that they normally incur would be normally because they're using perhaps the client software that came with the actual wireless card, or the actual access point in itself being a different make. Perhaps it's one of the newer released access points, such as the 802.11n or the pre-N, which is not at this moment a approved standard. It's going to be approved standard very shortly. So the first field there is the service set ID, and as you can see, that can consist of up to 32 characters. The next channel field is very, very important, because within wireless you actually have overlapping channels, which typically means that you could have interference. The three non-overlapping channels would be set to 1, 6, and 11. So we'll get into using some of the wireless sniffing tools in a few moments, whereby we'll actually look at perhaps different access points in the area for you to choose which is the appropriate channel that you want to set your access point frequency at, so therefore you're not going to have as much interference. You also have some of the other settings that we'll be looking at, the authentication methods, whether you be using WEP or WPA, and it gives us the ability to configure the encryption keys. So as I move my mouse over the different fields, it actually tells us a lot more information about those field values. So we will be going through these settings in a lot more detail.
So now this is where the fun begins. Let's start off with talking about some of the different attacks that we commonly are subjected to. When we go out and do what we call a wireless leakage analysis or a wireless penetration test, we first off start with gathering sufficient information about the surrounding areas, such as what are the different access points around the building perhaps that are available that are not owned by that building. And that's known as enumeration. Now we actually use a more specific term called war driving, which allows us to create a nice beautiful looking map with where all the different access points are, plotted on a nice diagram, and you can actually add in some really nice colorful diagrams to that, so that it actually makes your war driving map very, very exciting. Now we're actually going to bring you some really cool extra footage that we did whilst over in Europe. That was your first clue. I'm sure a lot of you folks that are frequent YouTube addicts have seen a lot of these different types of wireless war driving movies or videos, and we've seen some of these guys get up into aeroplanes and go out and do some war driving. And well, for us, we thought we'd do it a little bit differently. We were in a city that has a lot of canals, and that's your second clue. So we actually jumped onto a boat with a whole bunch of tourists, and we decided to do some basic war driving. So you're going to really enjoy that little part. Now, starting off with one of the most common types of attacks is known as a DOS attack, or denial of service attack. Some of the demonstrations that you're going to see me cover today would include what we call a deauth or a deauthentication type of attack. Now I'm going to just run that in a very simple manner, whereby I'm not going to continuously deauthenticate or continuously inject traffic to a target access point as obviously the victim in itself. So some of the techniques that I'm going to be showing you are used for me to enable me to at least crack some of the wireless encryption standards used within these access points. And if we had to continue that attack, naturally that would cause a denial of service attack. We're going to also take a look at man-in-the-middle attacks. Social engineering is a very important aspect of security. Information security professionals really have to become very, very savvy at understanding what this whole cool thing about social engineering is. Now, social engineering is nothing more than the art of deception. Somebody very well known in the industry called Kevin Mitnick was one of the masters at social engineering his way through different companies. So another professional also very well known in the industry is somebody called Johnny Long. Johnny Long's got this website called Johnny I Hack Stuff, and he's actually given it a specific name to social engineered types of attacks. It's typically called no tech hacking, which means you don't have to use these high thingy-mabobs that have ears and antennas and things sticking out all over the place, or high, sophisticated types of equipment. You literally just use your good old human element of deceiving people. And of course, for companies, typically speaking, the end users don't normally have sufficient end user security awareness training to actually pick up when they've been social engineered. So a perfect example of when somebody may be social engineering you, for those gentlemen or men out there that go into a bar and you're a single person, you typically want to tell that beautiful woman that you had your eyes on that she's beautiful and all of those nice loving things, so that you can hopefully get to go out for dinner with her, right? So for any of you ladies watching this, no offense taken there, but that is typically, what happens when we in our, early 20s and we want to go out and we're still having fun. So that's social engineering. Moving on to physical security, which is another very important aspect for wireless networking, because a lot of our physical assessments will include us actually planting a wireless access point on the inside of a company. So that means the company that's actually spent thousands and thousands of dollars or whatever your currency is on this protective equipment on your outside of your network, well, if we're able to get on the inside of that company network, connect to the existing network, we can then happily sit outside eating pizza, drinking beer, and collecting all the data, all the information from the company network. Another great little video that you can go and watch is from a group called From the Shadows. And I'll give you a very quick snippet of that video. Go and have a look at their website. They normally have some updated videos there, but they did some really cool stuff with wireless technology and some of the customization of the wireless equipment. So before I go into a demonstration of war driving and the programs that we can use and the hardware devices we can use, typically as minimum we need to use a free software package that runs under Windows called Network Stumbler. Or for those of you who are Linux junkies or really prefer to use Linux, as you're going to see me using for various reasons that I'll get into when we do the demonstration, you can use Kismet. And there's an array of war driving software packages nowadays. The benefit of Network Stumbler or Kismet is that it gives us the ability to use a GPS, a global positioning device, so that we can actually, as we find the wireless access points, so it will actually plot the longitude and the latitude. We can use another free program called KNS Gem, and the KNS Gem is really simply used to take the data from your Network Stumbler program, convert it into a format that Google Earth is able to then populate. So you get this really cool looking map that actually is integrated into the Google Earth software package. So you want to of course have a wireless access point to test some of this equipment against, but at the most part you want to have your wireless adapter card, your GPS unit, as well as any type of wireless antennas or boosters so that you can get the best possible signal. So sit back and enjoy this demonstration.